I am really privileged and honored to interview Tykeysha Boone, who is someone who has helped True Beauty Discovery, our nonprofit, with what we do and how we continue. So a little introduction about Ty. She has 25 years of experience in nonprofit management, program development, research, administration, and public health. She specializes in fund development, grant writing, program evaluation, and capacity building. She works with Urban Awareness, which is where I met her. It's a group that helps nonprofits and offers trainings and webinars and all sorts of resources for nonprofits. So if you do work with a nonprofit, it's an amazing organization. Um, and Ty, for me, is amazing because I followed her since I joined Urban Awareness. And I've personally worked with her for the past month, and it's just been truly extraordinary. But I want to find out about you, and I want to find out what drives you. So talk to me about, like, when you wrote your first grant when you were how old?
I was 19. I was a little girl, 19 years old. I was at the time. So I went y'all. I have my background. You just read what that was in, right? So I started out in psychology. I was doing research, and one day I was asleep in the lab. I was literally asleep in the lab because I was bored. And my PI at the time came by, my principal investigator, for those of you who know research terminology. And he's like, you seem bored. And I'm like, yeah, I am bored. He's we're working on this grant. You want to try writing it? Sure, sure. Whatever. I'm 19. I don't have anything to lose. I don't have any kids to feed or whatever. So yeah, we can do this. And I tried it and we got it. And I was 19 years old then. From that point on, he was like, you know what, you did a good job, but you need some training. It was kind of rusty, even though we got it. So he got me involved in like grant writing classes, and you know, from after that, after we'd already gotten the grant, and I just kind of started from there, thanks to that good old doctor.
So when you were a kid, were you always curious? Were you always, because I know we are True Beauty Discovery. We do have our 7 legends. Ty did take the quiz, and Ty is the sleuth, which makes perfect sense. So I want to understand though, when you were a kid, like, did you want to figure things out, or were you like, who were you? What were you all about? What
I'm my mom's only kid, right? The only one. So, you know, my grandma, my aunts, and all those people, they were around. I'm from Greenville, Alabama, y'all, so I kind of country, you know. So that's this accent you got here from Greenville, Alabama. But it was just kind of me and her and the grown-ups kind of hanging around. So I would kind of listen to them and like what they're talking about, what's going on. You know, I play with my cousins and stuff, but I was always my aunt said I was an old soul, right? She would always say that you're an old soul because I was more interested in what they had going on than I was with what the kids had going on. So always curious about, you know, how y'all solving problems, what y'all doing, that kind of thing. And I think it's kind of went with me. I was a psychology major in undergrad because I wanted to figure people's heads out. Like, okay, what y'all thinking about? What y'all doing? And that's kind of what got me into the whole research mode, which I was there before I started the grant writing stuff. Grant writing and nonprofit development, all that stuff came about a little bit later. I was doing the work with the research, and this same PI kind of connected me to other spaces around the city. Like maybe you should go do this, and he was always kind of making me be more curious. Right? I think I owe a whole lot to him. He's like, you know, you should go check this out. Maybe you should go spend some time over there at the HIV clinic. Maybe you should go spend some time at the VA. And I was like, oh, I guess I will. I mean, let's go. And I started to learn about community-based organizations from there. And like, you know, they wanted to get in on some of the funding that we had at the university. We were getting, you know, multiple millions of dollars, and they were getting 50 cents. They weren't getting any money, but they were doing a lot of work. They were raggedy. I like to say that word, meaning that they just weren't put together well, but they couldn't get the kind of funding that they needed because they were just internally just not well put together. And I started to my within myself, like, what is going on with it? Like, why are they doing all this work and they're struggling like they're struggling and they want to be a part of what we have going on in the university and nothing against the universities, but a lot of times universities and large organizations will come in with like a bunch of money and we need those numbers and we need that data. So we'll partner up with some of these folks and we'll give them 50 cents, whatever, and we'll have them do all this work. They're doing all the work though, and we're getting all the money. And I'm like, okay, and they're still struggling to pay their executive director, they're still struggling to pay this, but we got our data and we're gonna get more money from it. So it's like, let me see, can I, how can I help these people get more money? And that's when I started thinking about it. I didn't go right into, the work at that time. I need to learn a little bit more. So I went to work with some of these little nonprofits and everything. And I just started putting it all together. And you're right.
Okay, so you worked with the nonprofits, like were you on their boards or were you employed by them?
So a lot of that. So some I was on boards. I stopped being on boards when I wanted to get paid.
Well, that makes sense.
So for public charity boards, I'll be on board. I told a story about, how I love lasagna, right? So I was like, okay, if I'm on this big board, they would always have these meetings and they would have like ask you what you want to eat. So I'm like, okay, I want lasagna. And there was a special place in Birmingham that I always wanted my lasagna from. And if they said, okay, we do that, I'm gonna be on that board. I'm just in here like so I can get that lasagna. But after a while I started taking on executive staff roles in some of the organizations, really learning when I got into those kind of roles, what it looked like, just kind of the struggle of even $1 million, few $1 million organizations, we're still struggling and, scared almost every other quarter, how we're gonna be salary,
Right.
what we're gonna do. The last nonprofit organization that I worked for traditionally, I served as the program director for a specific department that they had, and just kind of got into, writing a whole bunch of grants, getting a whole lot of partnerships with them. To the point that even the people who came behind me, they were still kind of living off of those things,
Right.
from those grants and those things that I was able to get with them. But that opportunity just kind of showed me the importance of getting in the middle and connecting with the community, your legislation and all those folks. It kind of got me mixed up in a role of where I am now, where I'm like, you know what, it's not just the community-based organization itself, but everybody else around them in this community that makes it work.
How long have you worked with urban awareness?
I've been with Urban Awareness since 2016.
Okay.
A friend of mine actually, and it was a funny story. This woman who knew my sister. So my mom's only child, but my dad has some kids, right? Knew my sister, and my sister, let her know that hey, my sister does grant writing and she does nonprofit stuff and whatever. So she started following me, I believe, and she may have been following me on Facebook. I don't know, but she followed me for a while. She reached out and she says, I know this guy, Tracy Brown at Urban Awareness USA. He does stuff with housing and, nonprofits and whatever. He's looking for somebody who could help form nonprofit organizations because they had somebody. They've been around 20 something years as well.
They have? I didn't know.
Been around 20, yeah, 20. I can't remember what this is, the 2020 or 25th anniversary or whatever this year. But they've been around. They had someone who was doing this, but he got sick and he couldn't continue to form the nonprofits. And so she's, I've been following you. I think you'd be great. Can you talk with them? So I talked with him, and that was it. I was supposed to come to Urban Awareness USA to do 501(c)(3) applications. And that's it. Like that, that's what what I was coming there to do. I spoke with Mr. Brown, and then after talking with him, he's like, okay, cool. He's like, I see you like to talk because you see, you like to talk. Do you talk to people? Do you teach or whatever? I was like, yeah, I do a little bit of teaching, and that was it.
Wow. Um, wow. And just out of curiosity, do you know how much money you have raised in grants, you yourself?
So and grants, my team and I. So I have a team, and I've been doing Boone Enterprises since 2014. So a little bit before we went and started doing work with Urban Awareness USA. But to date, we have raised and managed a little bit over 400 million in grants and fundraising funds.
Wait,
400 million since
wait, okay, wait, since what year?
we started in 2014.
Oh my, wow. That's a lot of money, Ty.
That's a lot of money. And you know, a lot of it, federal grants, and you can, if you're doing research and development grant, it's not really hard to get multiple, a lot of money at one time, which, right now I'm a little bit nervous because I don't know what's going on with,
Right.
what's
I
going
got
on.
you.
But it's not hard to do. And if you are in front of the right people with sponsorship and fundraising, it's really not as hard as people make it. I, I know, Holly. It's about building relationships. And a lot of times the relationship is what gets you the money, right? Knowing the right people at the right time and really having strong organizations, strong, internal, your boards being strong, the way that you manage your finances being strong, and being able to present the need in a way that the funder says, you know what, I want to support that thing. And I think that's where a lot of people just kind of miss it. You're like, you're kind of selfish with it. You're like, my people need this thing. I need to do this thing. But does the funder think that is needed? It's more about them. I remember a couple years ago, I posted on Facebook, the song, You're So Vain. I bet you think this
Huh?
is about you. So I was like, You're so vain. I bet you think this funding is about you. It's not. It's not about you. It's about the funder and what they want. So knowing how to speak the funder's language. I also, you know, even though Boone Enterprises started in 2014, I got all this work from when I was 19 for it, right? Before I started grant writing, I spent a lot of time as a grant reviewer. I still review grants now, for, whether it's federal grants or foundation grants or whatever, being able to review, and I probably everybody on my team, maybe except for the administration people, also have served as grant reviewers. So that makes us really good grant writers because we know what the funder is looking for. And when we were in review panels, there are 10, 12 other people sitting around, now Zoom. It used to be where you have to review it and sit it in and get paper cuts and all this kind of stuff, but now it's Zoom. And you do this and you get to hear people's perspective of why they want to fund this organization or why not, and all these things. So being able to get that inside scoop, I think helps us to have the success that we've had with being able to get the awards.
How many people are on your team?
9.
Okay. So how many books have you written?
4 books. So I have 2 books that are like on Amazon, Show Me the Money and Be Worth Funding. And then I have 3 success planners. And that was like 2014, 15, and 16. I did success planners. They used to be for sale. They're not for sale because we're not in 2016 anymore. But I did those every year. So that's what, 5 published books. I have a ton of published peer-reviewed articles. I don't know if you Google me, you'll find that kind of stuff
I
about me.
have Googled you.
I try to keep it secret. I don't want to tell all the stuffs, right? But so I have quite a few of those, even when I was 19, going back to this, the big grants and things. You can Google me, you'll find some of the projects that I worked on, and the publications that we were able to create out of those.
The links are provided here, and we will post them at the end of the interview as well. I just bought your book, to tell you the truth. Thank
Did you read it? Did you read it? Not yet. You
Just bought it.
It's ordered. Okay, because I told people you can buy the book, but you want to read the book. I mean, it's not a hard read, at all. It's just me. It's just just me talking, but really helping, I think, organizations understand what the funding landscape looks like, right? Some people, especially folk who are starting nonprofits, public charity nonprofits, they come into it with a different expectation. It's like, somebody told you, start a nonprofit, maybe you can get some grant money, or maybe you really want to serve and you feel like I need to have a nonprofit in order to make my best mark on society. So I'll do it this way. But a lot of folks get discouraged when they get started. They're like, okay, well, I thought I had support, I thought, that everybody knew this was a problem. But now that I've been in this for a couple of years, it seems like I'm out here all by myself. Like I'm just, everybody has their own thing going on. Even with your board, sometimes it's like they got their own thing going on. So where do I get the support? Where do I get the funding? How do I position? So I think that, Be Worth Funding is more about positioning yourself for the funding than it is about getting the funding, because I have a whole other issue with even getting the funding, even though my team and I are looking at 400+ million dollars. I'm like, oh my goodness, not everybody needs that kind of money. Not everybody needs to be awarded $1 million grant, because after the grant, you have to manage the grant. What does that look
Right.
like?
What drives you? Anything specifically? Anything that makes you like be like, I gotta do this?
Those kids. That's the first thing, right? My personal, thing. My kids, I remember, and it hasn't always been like this. Like, I haven't always knew exactly what it is I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. There's been some tough times, right? Um, I remember at one point, 'cause my daughter, she'll be graduating from undergrad in May,
Oh,
right? She's
that's
in August.
great.
But I remember, she was when she was a little girl, kind of struggling a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I'm stressed out. I don't know what I want to do. Like, I don't really know. When I left traditional work, and I left traditional work when I was about to give birth to my second child. He's 16. I said, you know what? I don't want to go back to work in traditional work like ever. I want to stay home because I just want to stay home. Like, I just don't want to. I just don't want to go. I want to stay home. But I remember, I was at the time I was teaching. I've taught at 13 different colleges and universities, and I was teaching on. They were online schools mostly, so I was doing that. My daughter was little, and I remember kind of like missing. Like, in my head, I thought I missed like 5 years of her life. I'm like, where you been? Like, who is this? Like being in this state of, I don't even know, like, what's going on. And I remember laying on the couch one day, and she was over on the chair, and I looked up, and I was like, she's gotten big. Like, where have I been? Like, like, during all this time. And from that point, I was like, you know what? You gotta get it together. You gotta decide what you're gonna do, and you gotta go and you gotta do this thing. And that was what drove me. Now, I have two sons, 16 and they're 10. But she was, I think, was the driving force more than they were. They didn't see that mommy, right there, that was
Right.
like going to work and coming back and doing this kind of thing. She saw that, and I was like, I gotta let me turn this around a little bit, for her. I have a husband, and I remember having a conversation with him about not wanting to go back to traditional work. And he says, well, that's fine. And so I stayed home, but for the first couple of years, I'm like, I'm not making any money. Like, I like, what's going on? And he was like, girl, Dollar General is hiring. Like, you want to go? And I'm like, no, I can't, I'm not gonna do that, whatever. And so those things kind of together kind of started pushing me forward. And then seeing, just like I said before, even when I was 19, just kind of thinking about some of the stuff that I saw, some of the organizations that I saw struggle, which I knew where I was needed. I didn't really know how to get there, to the masses like I wanted to get to. I think that urban awareness, even though, I have, me and my team, we do. I think Urban Awareness USA made it possible to reach a lot of people at one time. So when that kind of happened, I'm like, yeah, like, this is what, because there's a bunch of people right here, and I don't have to like serve one or two at a time, even though we still do that over there. I'm able to have a webinar where a couple thousand people,
Right.
sign up for. So I'm able to do that and kind of speak to what their issues are because of what I've seen and what I've experienced and what I've helped other organizations work through. And I said, you know what, that looking at communities where there's a need and there's a resource for them, but you also know that they don't know how to get to it, that's a
Right.
driving force. You're like, well, I know how to get there. So can I just come and tell you how to get there? That drives me, being that person that knows how to do that.
You are so inspiring on the webinars that I've been on, and I'm so happy to have been on ones where I can talk to you, because some of the other ones are, hundreds of people and they mute all of us.
Hmm.
Just being, lucky you guys, because we'd be like, ugh. But just being able to talk to you and hear you talk to others, it's first off, you're so funny, you're so kind, you're so smart, and you're also so no nonsense. You completely like it's wonderful. It's wonderful to work with you. One last thing, if you could say something to your young self as who you are now, what would you say to that little girl?
I would say, girl, it's okay. You got this. I would say it just like that. Girl, it's okay. Like whatever you were stressing about, it's all right. You got this. No, whatever your plan is, don't worry about it. It's gonna unfold and you got this. I say that to myself now and at 19, and at 10. Like, girl, you got this.
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people, a lot of girls need to hear that. It's like, well, there's just things like the world itself, and there's internal things, and there's stuff, maybe my hair is too curly, or I got, these little blemishes. Who cares about that? Right? You got this. Whatever big thing that you're wanting to do, you got it. Don't worry about it. It's gonna happen. If it takes 25 years from the time you started to work with nonprofits, so now it doesn't matter because you're gonna be here to see it and you got this. It's okay.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Tykeysha Boone, for talking to me and for helping me and for being one of the most extraordinary women I've ever met.
Oh,
Truly, truly. Thank
thank
you so much.
thank you.
All right, so True Beauty Discovery signing off with Tiger.